My name's Lauren Hayes. I'm 36, a financial consultant for a private investment firm, living in Des Moines, Iowa. A life I built entirely from the ground up. That morning, right in the middle of a tense work meeting, my phone buzzed across the conference table, yanking me out of my focus. A message from my sister lit up the screen. "Send me $3,000 for prom." I froze. My jaw tightened. $3,000 for one night of glitter and photos? I typed back, "Earn it yourself." Not even 5 minutes later, another text came through, this time from my parents. It hit me like a slap across the face. "Pay or get out of this family." My heart pounded in my chest. For years I'd been sending them money, thinking it was just for emergencies, things that really mattered. But now they were threatening to cut me off unless I paid for a prom dress? The anger burned hot, but underneath it, something colder crept in. The realization that maybe they'd been using me all along, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. That night I paced for hours, replaying their words in my head until I couldn't take it anymore. I sat down, took a deep breath, and started tapping the screen. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Every account, every transfer gone. By 9:30 a.m. The next morning my world had completely flipped. And what happened after? Let's just say the truth I uncovered still gives me chills. To understand why that one text hit me so hard, you need to know a bit about my family. I wasn't handed anything. No shortcuts, no freebies. Everything I have, I earned. Growing up, I learned early that hard work was my only ticket out. My parents, though, didn't see life that way. My mom and dad poured everything they had into my little sister. Their golden child, the baby they had when I was already 18. By then, I was juggling part-time jobs just to cover my own expenses while they treated her like royalty. Mom ran the show. Dad followed quietly behind. They lived way beyond their means, buying her designer clothes, throwing these ridiculous birthday parties, even paying for her weekend getaways with friends when they could barely afford their mortgage. Their suburban house in Des Moines was falling apart, but they'd rather spend on appearances than on repairs. Meanwhile, I was grinding through college, balancing 2 jobs, determined to make something of myself. By 25, I landed my first marketing job. By 30, I was running campaigns for big clients, living comfortably on my own, no strings, no debts, no guilt. But my parents saw me differently. I was their safety net. About 5 years ago, I set up a joint account to help them cover their essentials. Bills, groceries, the basics. I thought I was being a good daughter, easing their stress a little. I didn't check on it much, I was too busy with work. I just assumed they were using it responsibly. But my sister? She'd grown used to luxury. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, new phones, it was all normal for her. And my parents kept feeding that habit, draining every last cent to keep her smiling. I had no idea how deep it went until that day. Deep down, I'd always felt like the outsider, the one who had to earn her place while my sister got a free pass. Whenever I'd ask for help growing up, my mom's voice would cut through like a blade. "Figure it out, Lauren." But when it came to my sister, they'd bend over backward. I'll never forget her 10th birthday. A $2,000 princess-themed party, while I was working weekends just to pay for textbooks. Dad once said, "She's our second chance to get it right." I remember smiling through it, but it stung like hell. As the years passed, my sister's demands only got bigger: new gadgets, concert tickets, shopping sprees. My parents didn't even blink, even when they were drowning in debt. I truly believed I was helping them with that account, but I was blind. I thought I was supporting them, not funding their lifestyle. I've spent years proving I could stand on my own 2 feet, while my sister never had to lift a finger, because my parents made sure she didn't. And still, somehow, I was the one expected to pay for everything. That day at work, when my phone started blowing up again, I already had a bad feeling. Her message glared at me from the screen. "I need $3,000 for prom. Send it now." My blood boiled. $3,000 for one high school dance? For a dress she'd wear once and a limo to flaunt it? My hand shook as I typed back. "No way. Get a job and earn it yourself." I hit send thinking she'd sulk or throw a tantrum. Instead, my phone rang immediately. Her voice came through sharp, high-pitched, dripping with entitlement. "You're so selfish, Lauren. It's just prom. Why can't you help me?" I gripped the phone tighter, forcing myself to stay calm. "You're 18, I said slowly. "Plenty of kids work for prom money. Try it." She scoffed, her tone pure venom. You don't get it. I deserve this. Before I could even open my mouth, the line went dead. I just sat there staring at my phone, my stomach twisting into knots. Deserve it? Since when did she deserve my money? I tried to refocus on work, but her voice wouldn't leave my head. Kept looping over and over. I'd spent years clawing my way up on my own while she had everything handed to her on a silver platter. The unfairness burned, dragging up memories I'd buried deep. Like when I was 16, begging my mom for $50 to go on a school trip, and she snapped, "We can't afford it." But for my sister? $200 for concert tickets. No hesitation, no guilt. By noon, her voice came back to haunt me again. This time in a voicemail she probably didn't mean to send. "Mom, Dad, Lauren's being impossible," she whined. "Tell her to pay." I froze, picturing her pacing that same old living room in our Des Moines suburb, playing the victim like always. Minutes later, my phone lit up again, this time from my mother. "Pay for your sister's prom, or don't bother calling yourself part of this family." Then came my father's message, short and ice cold. "Do the right thing, Lauren." I just sat there, my hands trembling as I reread those words. The right thing? Over the years I'd sent them thousands, $1,000 for their mortgage, $2,000 for an emergency, smaller amounts sprinkled in between to cover groceries or bills. And now they were threatening to cut me off over a prom dress. My chest ached. It wasn't just anger, it was betrayal. Something about the whole thing felt wrong, like there was more going on than they were telling me. I called my sister back, trying to keep my voice steady even though I was shaking inside. "Why is this such a big deal?" I asked. "Ask Mom and Dad," she shot back. "They said you'd pay. It's my right." Her right. I almost laughed at how ridiculous it sounded. "You don't have a right to my money," I said, my voice low and sharp. "Grow up," she screamed. "You're ruining everything." Then click. She hung up again. I sat there in silence, staring at the phone like it might give me answers. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I thought about all the times my mom's voice came through the phone. Always the same lines, always just believable enough. "We're struggling, Lauren. The car broke down. Things are tight this month." And every time my dad would follow up with a soft-spoken, "Can you help us out?" I never questioned it. I was always too busy, too trusting, too loyal. By the afternoon, I was pacing my office, ignoring my emails while my thoughts spiraled. My sister's entitled behavior wasn't new. But this? This felt orchestrated. Like they'd been planning it. I pulled up my banking app and scrolled through the endless line of transfers. Years' worth of payments I'd made without a second thought. $1,300 here. $500 there. Always with the same reassurance. It's just for the basics. But now those old excuses. The car broke down, we had a rough month. They sounded rehearsed. Scripted. I texted my mom. "Why is prom worth disowning me?" No response. Then I tried my dad. "Explain this, please." Nothing. Silence. Their refusal to even acknowledge me hit harder than I expected. I just sat there, staring at my phone, realizing what this really was. Not a request for help, but emotional blackmail. They weren't asking. They were bullying me. I thought about that joint account, the one I'd opened years ago to help them stay afloat. I hadn't checked it in so long, too wrapped up in deadlines and meetings. What had they been doing with it all this time? My sister's tantrum, my parents' threats. It wasn't about a dress anymore. It was bigger. Much bigger. And I was done being their wallet. Then, as if the universe wanted to prove my point, an alert popped up in my inbox late that Tuesday afternoon. Subject line: Large transaction alert. My stomach dropped. I opened it, and there it was, a $5,000 withdrawal from the family account. No authorization. No explanation. My pulse started racing. $5,000 gone. That account was supposed to be for their essentials, not secret transfers. My mind spun back to the morning's messages, the pressure, the threats. This couldn't be random. I called my sister right away, my tone firm but calm. "What's going on with the family account?" Her answer came fast, cold, and defensive. "I don't know. Ask Mom and Dad." She snapped and hung up again. "Why are you always so suspicious?" she snapped when I pressed her. "Because $5,000 just vanished," I said firmly. "Do you know anything about it?" She laughed. A cold, dismissive sound that made my stomach turn. "You're overreacting. It's probably nothing." Then she hung up just like that. No explanation, no hesitation. I sat there fuming, the heat rising up my neck. Her refusal to answer only made my suspicions stronger. This wasn't just avoidance. She was hiding something, and I could feel it. I couldn't sit still another minute. I needed real answers, and I knew I wasn't going to get them from my family. That's when I decided to reach out to Rachel Whitman, a friend of mine who happened to be a lawyer. She worked just down the hall from my office at the marketing firm. I texted her, "Can we talk? It's urgent." She replied almost immediately, "Come by my office this evening, by 6:30 p.m." I was sitting across from Rachel, her desk covered in legal files, her coffee long cold. I told her everything. The weird bank alert, my sister's deflection, my parents' threats. "Something's off with the family account," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to know what they've been doing with it." Rachel listened quietly, her expression calm but focused. "Let's start by pulling the records," she said, flipping open her laptop. Her fingers moved fast across the keyboard as I handed her the login details. Within minutes she froze. Her eyes narrowed. "There are a lot of large withdrawals here," she murmured. "Some go to creditors, others to retail accounts." I leaned forward, my stomach twisting tighter. "Retail? What kind of retail?" She scrolled further. "High-end boutiques, jewelry stores, even a travel agency." My pulse quickened. This wasn't groceries or utility bills. This was luxury. Rachel kept digging. "It looks like your parents have been using the account to pay off debts," she said finally. "Credit cards, a car loan, and even a second mortgage." I felt a rush of betrayal so strong it made me dizzy. "A second mortgage?" I repeated. They had never said a word about that. All those calls asking for help, the unexpected expenses, the bad months, they weren't struggling, they were hiding debt. They'd been draining my account to keep up appearances. Then Rachel pointed to another column of smaller payments. "And these," she said, "are to restaurants, clothing stores, and," she paused, "a prom planner." My stomach dropped. "A prom planner?" I repeated. She nodded, scrolling. "Yep. Multiple payments, and here's one for $3,000. I sank back in my chair. My sister's $3,000 text suddenly made perfect, infuriating sense. "They've been using my money to fund her spending," I whispered. Rachel gave a small nod. "It appears so. Your parents have been using your funds to pay off debts, and to keep your sister in the lifestyle she's used to." I just sat there stunned. All those years I thought I was helping them survive. In reality, I'd been bankrolling their lies. When I left Rachel's office that night, the air outside felt heavier. The truth was like a stone in my chest. My family wasn't just manipulating me for money. They were covering up something deeper. The next morning I went straight back to her office. The lights were dim, papers scattered everywhere. But Rachel's expression was razor sharp. She pushed a stack of printed documents toward me. "These are the full bank records," she said quietly. "You're not going to like what you see." My stomach twisted as I scanned the first page. Over 5 years, $100,000 had been withdrawn, every cent coming from me. My money, my trust, gone. I felt a sharp ache in my chest. I believed I was helping them through tough times, but they'd been bleeding me dry behind my back. Rachel flipped through the transaction logs, her tone matter of fact. "Here, these went to credit card companies, here's a car loan, and this," she pointed, "is the second mortgage. They never mentioned any of this, right?" I shook my head, my throat tight. "They always said the house was almost paid off." She turned to another page. "And here, smaller payments. Boutiques, jewelry, travel agencies, even a high-end event planner. That one's $3,000. I'm guessing that's your sister's prom." I stared at the numbers, every transaction like a punch to the gut. Suddenly, every phone call from my mother came flooding back. "We're struggling, Lauren. Just a little help this month." Every single one had been a lie. How could they do this? I murmured, barely aware I'd spoken aloud. Rachel sighed. "People justify anything when they're desperate." Her words stung because they were true. And deep down I knew what I had to do next. That Tuesday morning, I called the bank and closed the joint account. 10 minutes, That's all it took to end years of financial manipulation. Each click, each confirmation felt like snapping another chain. When it was done, I took a deep breath and typed out a short email to my parents and sister. No emotion, no apologies. The joint account is closed. I know about the $100,000. There will be no more money. I hit send with a steady hand, even though my chest felt unbearably heavy. It wasn't just about money anymore, it was about trust. And they'd shattered it completely. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Within hours, my phone lit up non-stop. My sister called first, her voice a frantic mix of panic and fury. "You can't do this," she screamed. "We need that account." I stayed calm, even as my heart raced. "Need it for what?" I asked. "More designer dresses?" She stuttered, then exploded. "You're tearing this family apart." And just like before, she hung up. Mom's text came next. A wall of words I could barely bring myself to read. "How dare you accuse us?" My mother's text read. "We needed that money to survive." Survive? On luxury trips and prom planners? The words made me laugh bitterly. My father's message came right after, shorter but just as desperate. "Lauren, think about what you're doing to us." I didn't respond. Their excuses meant nothing now. I called Rachel to update her, my voice shaking with equal parts anger and release. "They're freaking out," I told her. She sighed softly. "Of course they are. Their safety net's gone. You finally cut the cord and you did the right thing." Maybe she was right, but I didn't feel victorious. Closing that account had given me freedom, yes, but it also felt like I just buried the family I'd spent my whole life trying to hold together. Their lies had changed everything, and I wasn't sure what the new version of family even meant anymore. A week later, I drove to their house in the suburbs of Des Moines. My hands clenched the steering wheel, a thick folder of bank statements resting on the passenger seat. The weight of what I was about to do pressed against my chest. 4 days, I'd gone over Rachel's findings, every painful detail. The $100,000 drained from the joint account, the $300,000 in total debt they'd hidden. I had replayed that number in my head until it lost all meaning. But today I would face them and say it out loud. No more lies. When I stepped into the living room, the air felt heavy. My mother was on the couch, her eyes already narrowed. My father stood by the window, arms crossed tight, expression unreadable. My sister sat slouched in the armchair, glued to her phone, pretending I wasn't even there. I didn't bother with small talk. "I know everything," I said, dropping the folder onto the coffee table. "The account I set up to help you, you took $100,000 from it. And you're sitting on $300,000 in debt." I opened the folder, spreading the documents across the table: bank statements, credit card records, proof of the second mortgage, payments to boutiques and jewelry stores, even the prom planner invoice. My mother's face twisted, but not with shame, with outrage. "How could you dig into our private affairs?" she snapped. "This is family, Lauren." A hot surge of anger ran through me. "Family," I said quietly. "I gave you everything and you used me. You lied." I went on, my voice trembling but steady. "You said the money was for bills, for survival. But you spent it on her." I pointed toward my sister, who still wouldn't lift her eyes from her screen. My father took a step closer, his voice sharp. "You don't understand, Lauren. We had no choice. Debts pile up, we needed help. You were supposed to help us." I just stared at him, disbelief flooding in. Supposed to help? I did help. I sent thousands every year. And you wasted it on things you couldn't afford. My mother broke in, tears streaking her cheeks. "You're so selfish," she cried. "We did this for her. For your sister's future." I turned to look at my sister, waiting for some kind of reaction, maybe even remorse. Nothing. She just sat there, motionless, letting our parents fight for her. That silence cut deeper than anything they said. My father's voice rose. "You can't walk away from us," he shouted. "We're your family. You owe us." Owe them. The word hit me like ice. "I don't owe you anything," I said, my voice rising, my hands trembling. "The account is closed. There's no more money. You're on your own." My mother gasped, clutching her chest like I'd struck her. "You're abandoning us," she cried. My sister finally looked up, panic flashing across her face, but she still didn't say a word. I stood my ground. You abandoned me first, I said quietly. You took my trust, my savings, years of my hard work, and used it like it was yours. The room exploded. My mother shouted about loyalty. My father accused me of betrayal. My sister just sat there pretending to be innocent. I gathered up the documents, my hands shaking with rage and relief. I'm done, I said, walking toward the door. Their voices chased me down the hallway. Anger, desperation, guilt, but I didn't look back. I had given them a chance to tell the truth, and all they'd given me was blame. That was the day I finally cut the last thread tying me to their chaos. When I got home that night, I knew what I had to do. The weight of everything, the lies, the guilt, the years of manipulation, pressed down hard, but beneath it was something else. Clarity. I opened my phone and started cutting ties. I blocked my parents' numbers, filtered their emails straight to spam, and deleted my sister's contact entirely. Each tap felt like untying a knot I'd spent half my life struggling against. It hurt, God, it hurt, but it also brought peace. I was done being their lifeline. Months went by. Then word trickled back through a distant cousin. My parents have filed for bankruptcy. $500,000 in debt, credit cards, loans, that second mortgage had finally caught up with them. Their house in Des Moines, the one they'd always bragged about being nearly paid off, was gone. I pictured movers hauling boxes out of the driveway, my mother sobbing, my father standing there, staring into nothing. A part of me ached for them, but another part felt nothing at all. They'd built this disaster themselves with my money. I just stopped funding the illusion. And my sister? She finally had to face real life. The same cousin mentioned she'd taken a part-time job at a clothing store, folding shirts, smiling at customers, earning the kind of money she used to demand from me. The girl who once thought a $3,000 prom dress was her right was finally learning what it meant to earn it. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet, bittersweet relief. Maybe someday she'd understand what I tried to teach her. As for me, I found peace. Real peace. The constant guilt trips, the desperate calls, the emotional manipulation gone. I poured my energy back into my work, my savings, my life. For the first time in years, my phone was silent, and I finally liked the sound of it. After everything that happened, I finally decided to see a therapist. Someone who could help me untangle the years of manipulation and rebuild the confidence my family had slowly worn down. Setting boundaries wasn't easy. It meant letting go of the small, stubborn hope that someday they'd change, that they'd finally see me as more than just their personal bank account. But letting go also meant freedom. For the first time, I learned to say no, not out of anger but out of self-respect. I started protecting my future instead of sacrificing it to fix someone else's mess. I stopped letting their chaos define who I was. When I look back now, I realize this whole painful journey taught me something life-changing. Family doesn't equal obligation. Love should never come with a price tag. For years, I believed it was my job to save them, that their struggles were somehow mine to carry. I was wrong. What truly saved me was learning to draw the line, to take control of my finances, my peace, and my life. Walking away from toxicity wasn't selfish. It was survival. And if you're listening right now, trapped in that same exhausting cycle, please hear me. You don't owe anyone your security. Protect yourself first. It's not cold. It's not cruel. It's necessary.